I would do the same. Like if Frank had said that about me, I would have fired back with that. But obviously, I haven't seen him do any shows in America for a while.
Pro boxing fans here in London. Jai Opetaia, Jordan Thompson.
Not a massive fight in terms of what we do, but one exciting fight. You know, I mean, Jai Opetaia, #1 cruiserweight in the world, IBF and Ring Magazine champion. Jordan Thompson, 6'7", one of the biggest punching cruiserweights I've ever seen, with speed and superstar status and looks. But he's right in deep, you know, in super deep. He's got all the potential in the world, but he's going to have to get it right on Saturday night to face an animal, really, the cruiserweight division in Jai Opetaia.
I was reading something that Tony Bellew wrote on the DAZN website about this fight, and he said Jordan Thompson's a good fighter, but maybe his days at this weight are behind him. He's probably going to be better at heavyweight. Do you agree with that sentiment a little bit?
Yeah, I think he's definitely going to move to heavyweight. But when you get a chance like this, I mean, don't forget, it's not as if he's already moved to heavyweight. His last fight was at cruiserweight. It was always planned that this fight would be in cruiserweight, but I don't think he can stay around there long. I mean, see the size of him. I mean, he's 6'7". Like, it's not a guy with skinny legs. This is a big cruiserweight. So this is it. Time to roll the dice in the cruiserweight division. And what a time to do it as a Brit in London against the main man to become the man of the cruiserweight division. It's a great chance.
Jai Opetaia looking fierce when I interviewed him just now. He's got that look on him and that face-off that they had. What were they saying to each other, actually? Yesterday
was better. I was a bit pissed off with the content team because I wasn't mic'd yesterday. And it was one of the best head-to-heads I've ever seen. Today was good, but it's just two serious dudes. Like, you know, Jordan Thompson has been born and raised to win. Right? You've probably never met his parents, but they're, you know, international judo, like, medalists, champions, everything. And it's like kind of a little bit similar to how I was raised as well. Losing, disaster, absolute disaster. It's not even acceptable. And that's how they look at this fight. That's how he's been built. So if you say to Jordan Thompson, yeah, but it's a shot to nothing, and if you lose, you can move up to heavyweight, he goes, what are you talking about? If I lose this fight, it's an absolute disgrace and a disaster. So that's the pressure that you put on yourself. But at this level, it's very difficult. And Jai's a serious dude. Like, if you watch the Brady's fight, you see a guy who busted his jaw in 2 places in the 3rd round, boxed 9 rounds with a broken jaw. Like, he's a beast, this guy. And Jordan's going to have to put a dent in him early, because he's going to be on his chest walking him down, and it's a great fight. And Chev Clark in a great step up against Basil Duca as well. Ellie Scotney defending her world title on the card. Look out as well for Rhiannon Dixon against Katharina Thanders for the European title. Look out for Jimmy Sain's pro debut, George Liddard, Maisie Rose Courtney, Ibrahim Suleiman, Shannon Ryan. Great night of boxing.
Out of all the champions, apart from Badou Jack, because I think he's going to be a lot harder to sort of get a fight arranged with, are the other 2 champions, Chris Billam-Smith and Goulamarian. Yeah. What's the easiest fight for you to make?
To make? Well, it ain't going to be Billam-Smith, is it, if he's with Boxer and Sky? I mean, you know, we've tried to make, of course, the Fabio Wardley Fraser Clark fight, which couldn't get made, went to purse bids, they pulled out. Richard Riakporhe got the fight with Jai Opetaia. We tried to make that fight, they pulled out the purse bid. So they won't allow, there's no purse bid for that fight, but they won't allow you to make a fight other than on their terms. And, you know, Chris Billam-Smith should want to unify. Jai does. But let's see what happens Saturday night. But the fight to make, in my opinion, is the winner of this fight against Chris Billam-Smith.
Last weekend, you were out in Orlando, obviously, with Conor Benn's return. Frank Warren came out with the comments in regards to the show, and where you held the show and said it was a small ballroom where you'd probably hold a press conference. I think that was in response to you calling him a small show promoter. Just give me your response in regards to that.
It was a ballroom. I mean, it was one of the biggest ballrooms I've ever seen, but it was a site deal with a major resort in Orlando. It wasn't an un-air-conditioned swimming baths in Bethnal Green. So, which I love, by the way, York Hall. So, you know, when we get a major site deal, of course, we go to the resort, and the arena will be where they'd like you to be, which was in a huge ballroom, and, you know, we had 1,500 people in there, and it was a little bit of a small hall show for us, if you like, but it wasn't really a hall, and there definitely was air conditioning, but it was a major site deal with a big resort in Orlando. Actually, the same venue that Amanda Serrano defends her undisputed championship in a couple of weeks at as well. It's a venue that stages a lot of boxing in America, but yeah, it was a good opportunity for him to have it. I thought it was quite funny, and I would do the same. Like, if Frank had said that about me, I would have fired back with that. But obviously, I haven't seen him do any shows in America for a while.
Talking about Conor Benn, Chris Eubank Jr. is the fight that everyone's talking about. Is there a date? Is there anything going on? I know you're trying to sort of get it over here, but if not, is it Abu Dhabi we're hearing maybe possibly?
Yeah, look, we want to make that fight in the UK. December 23 is the target. Manchester, Wembley, Cardiff Millennium Stadium, all opportunities to stage the fight, but we have to see how things progress with the board. If not, we've had a couple of international offers to stage that fight, and if not, we're in talks with 2 or 3 other opponents for Conor Benn, because he's fighting in December, and we can't just rely on Chris Eubank Jr. I think Jr. wants the fight, and obviously there's a huge amount of money in the fight, but I don't know if he'll take the fight, and if he doesn't, we've got to look at other options, and that's what we're doing as well.
AJ is supposedly fighting in December as well. From what you're saying, maybe that Wilder fight isn't going to happen till maybe February, March time. Is that going to be same time? Because it seems to be jam-packed in December.
He may wait and fight Wilder. Like, look, we agreed to the fight in January, so did Deontay Wilder. We know it's not happening in January. So there's talks about the fight happening in February or March. But if it doesn't, or it's not concrete, does he fight in December as well? That's an option. He wants to go back to camp. He wants to stay active. But we'll have to see. Our preference and our target is Deontay Wilder, but there is a chance he might fight between.
Obviously on the same night, Zhilei Zhang beat Joe Joyce. Your mate Carl Froch had a bit to say about the whole AJ versus Zhang fight, and he said maybe the old AJ would have beaten him. I think his words were, Zhang's frightening to watch. If Zhang slips AJ's combination and clips him, that's a worry for Eddie Hearn, because you put that comments, yeah.
Worry for me. I mean, I've not really heard Carl Froch say a lot of positive things about Anthony Joshua recently. I don't see how Zhilei Zhang at 42 has suddenly become this unstoppable force in the heavyweight division. He's a really good fighter. He has been for a long time. He's a very good amateur. We had him for 6 fights. I know what he can do. You know, he's hasn't got fast hands. His feet are quite slow, but he's a big lump and he can whack. Probably not got the best engine in the world, but like, you know, if you think that a fighter like AJ would be concerned about fighting Zhilei Zhang, I mean, when we had Zhang, we talked about that fight happening at the Bird's Nest, and there wasn't really any demand for it in China. But now he's had those big wins, that could be an option. And if there is, we take that fight all day long. So, open to that fight. It's not really, you know, as I said, our priority is Wilder, but if we do have another fight, could be Zhang, no problem. But you know, there's a difference between Anthony Joshua and Joe Joyce, and I've tried telling people this for a long time. You have to look at a fighter's resume, and this is why AJ, in my opinion, it's just an opinion, like anyone else could have an opinion. This is why AJ beats Deontay Wilder. Deontay Wilder has never beaten any elite heavyweight, ever, right? And like, you might be able to try and have a conversation that Luis Ortiz at 48 or whatever he was that guy. Wilder's never beaten I'm not saying he's not a good fighter, and I'm not saying he's not dangerous, but he's never beaten an elite heavyweight. Joe Joyce never beaten an elite heavyweight. Never. Beat Daniel Dubois. It was a good win. It was a British title fight, right? Joe Parker. Love Joe Parker. It's not the Joe Parker of 4 or 5 years ago when he was world champion. Good win as well. But Joe Joyce has never beaten an elite heavyweight. So you all guys, not you, but people get carried away. Whoa, he's a machine. He'd walk through Anthony Joshua. Do you not realise that AJ punches as hard as Zhang, but 5 times quicker? Like, he would absolutely pepper Joe Joyce. I've seen it with my own eyes. And by the way, when I've seen it, Joe Joyce would always be competitive because one, he's got a great chin, and 2, he's got a great work rate. When you lose your chin or your punch resistance, and that's your biggest attribute, it ain't going to be pretty. And what you saw on Saturday was actually not a mismatch, but it was a one-sided beatdown, and it was a bad knockout. So people keep talking about should Joe Joyce retire, all that kind of stuff. The answer is if you have ambitions only at world level and that's all you're interested in, yes, he should retire. If he's just, you know, he's not a shot fighter. He's not like, his punch resistance completely gone. At a certain level, but who said? Bellew said, do you think Joe Joyce would beat Fabio Wardley? And right now, I'd say no. And Fabio Wardley's British champion. So, you know, I think people around Joe will know better. But I see a guy that was extremely durable with a granite chin that no longer has that asset. And when you fight like Joe, that becomes a concern. By the way, lovely guy, should have been Olympic heavyweight champion, won the interim world title, really good fighter. But there's a difference. You know, people say now about Zhilei Zhang. My top, when you look at the top 5 in the division, I go Tyson Fury, Usyk, and it's close, but because I think Tyson Fury beats Usyk, I go Tyson Fury, Alexander Usyk, Anthony Joshua, Deontay Wilder, and then number 5 is a flip between Hrgovic, who beat Zhang. Some say it should have gone the other way. Zhang and Andy Ruiz. So that's really how I see it. And there's other guys out there with potential, but it's all about the resume. And that's why it makes me laugh sometimes that AJ, like when you go back to Zhilei Zhang and you look at AJ's resume, he's fought everybody outside of Fury and Wilder, and hopefully we can box those fights off. But you know, and that's my say.
Talking about Tyson Fury, a lot of talk about Francis Ngannou's workout, which I'm going to show you bits of, because John Fury's said, listen, this has to be kidology because this is going to be the quickest knockout.
Definitely not kidology. It's a great event. Everyone's looking forward to it. If you analyse Francis Ngannou as a boxer, I'll shoot a question. Does Francis Ngannou win a Southern Area title? And the answer is not in a million years. The answer is the Southern Area heavyweight champion is Johnny Fisher, who Francis Ngannou would not last one round with Johnny Fisher. And he's fighting the number 1 heavyweight in the world. But it's only I know we're saying it's not an exhibition, but it doesn't matter if Tyson Fury knocks him out in a round. It's the spectacle, it's the event, but just don't expect it to be competitive.
Cool. Eddie, I know you've got a massive queue behind me, so thank you very much for giving us your time, and we'll see you soon. Cheers.